Comrades, welcome to Out of the Foxholes, where I sit here in red chair of glorious revolution and answer all of your questions about the war that some call the Second World War, but was really war of capitalist aggression designed to crush glorious revolution, but which ultimately failed. Let's see. Rebecca writes, did all ages conscripts in Britain train and fight together, or did they put older men in support roles? Please could you talk about conscription and age? I recently learned British men aged 18 to 41 years old were conscripted for active duty, 42 to 60 for the Home Guard. Oh, Rebecca. What can I say? Conscription in Britain was reintroduced in 1939. Indeed, as you wrote, the conscription age was 18 to 41. The actual call update, though, depended on the specific age. See, a problem was that the British authorities did not know how many men over the age of 18 there were in Britain. The last census was held in 1931, so extrapolating from that information, the authorities guessed that there were 16 million. Those of military age would be 9.5 million. 4 million were in reserved occupations, and 1.1 million were already in active service or in the reserves. So this left 1.4 million men available, assuming they were fit for duty. One remarkable note about the original list of reserved occupations. That's people that didn't have to report for enlistment because their job was too important for the war effort. The note is that while many jobs listed are things you'd expect, like engineers, doctors, policemen, and other people needed at the home front and for war production, many more reflected the needs of the upper-class lawmakers. So, and I'm not making this up, the list included horse trainers, chefs de cuisine, gardeners, and pastry cooks. Well, come on, guys, pastry cooks, you're not going to send a pastry cook to war, right? You need that guy at home.
That's right.
I mean, don't give him a shit. Okay. Unsurprisingly, these jobs were removed from the list in later revisions. But back to the people that did actually have to submit to conscription. The British Armed Forces, all in total, grew from 645,000 men in April 1939 to 1,065,000 on September 3rd of the same year. Actually, the conscripts in 1939 were allowed to state their preferred army branch. About half of them opted for the Navy or the Air Force. However, those did not need that many people, so they had the luxury to select the very best of the best.
Could the Admiral Graf Spee have fought its way out of Montevideo Harbor and escaped? Interesting counterfactual. And honestly, I'm not sure. It is, of course, well known that the British fleet sitting outside of Montevideo was basically the cruiser Cumberland and the two light cruisers Ajax and Achilles. Exeter had gone home for repair. It was also well known that although the British were sending a fleet down south, it wasn't there yet, although they certainly made every attempt to make sure that it was known that the fleet were out there, to the extent that they bought tens of thousands of tons of fuel oil for refueling the things, even though they weren't actually available for refueling. I do have a video out on that as an aside on my channel, courtesy of World Warships. Langsdorff certainly believed that he couldn't get out. And, well, I guess that's the important thing. He did have a list of failures to include in the galley. Was the ship physically seaworthy? Yes, it was. Was it combat worthy? Yes, it was, to the limit of however much ammunition they had left in the magazines. Could it have made it all the way back to Germany? Unknown, especially because the British, although they didn't have the ships directly there, they were in the area, and you know that they were going to flood the place with absolutely every ship, submarine, airplane that they could. And one of the vessels that was heading south was actually an aircraft carrier. So it's probably just as easy to say that the Germans would have delayed the inevitable as it would have been that they couldn't have gotten out eventually. Either way, as I said, what is important is what Langsdorff thought. He thought he could not get out. End of story.
Herr Rommel 2547 says, "Hi, Indy and crew. Crew, say hi. Hi. I hope you're having a wonderful day today." I am having a wonderful day today. It's been a great day. I had a terrible cold, but it was kind of cozy. You know how sometimes when you're sick, it's kind of cozy. Anyhow, my question for Out of the Foxholes is, what was the French aerial technology up to this part of the war? I've heard that they had one of the best tanks up to this point, but what about their airplanes? Okay. The Armée de l'Air, the French Air Force, I'm not French, which became an independent branch in 1934, accelerated their armament in 1936 when the Germans occupied the Rhineland. They wanted to double the French Air Force by the end of 1939. Yet, partly because of the nationalization of the French aircraft industry, only 273 fighters and 663 other combat aircraft had been manufactured. In early 1938, the French Air Force had 793 fighters, of which the most advanced were the 54 Dewoitine 510s with fixed landing gear. When French intelligence reported that the German Luftwaffe had 2,850 aircraft, of which 850 were modern fighters, the French government gave full priority to the production of modern aircraft. They planned to build 1,081 fighters and over 1,500 other aircraft. The fighters that were ordered were MS-406s, which was short for Morane-Saulnier 406, the most used airplane in the French Air Force during World War II. Some were ordered in 1934 and 1937, but when war became a real possibility in 1938, the Air Ministry ordered 825 more. 6 per day were made, and production ended in March 1940. The MS-406 was armed with a propeller shaft-mounted 20mm cannon with 60 rounds. Additionally, it had 2 7.5mm machine guns on the wings with 30 rounds each. In terms of distance, the MS-406 had a range of 1,000 kilometers with a max speed of 486 kilometers per hour. The French also ordered a lot more modern Dewoitine D-520 planes, which were the best fighter planes in the French arsenal. Now, they were a bit slower than the German Messerschmitt Bf-109E. They were superior in maneuverability. The maximum speed was 530 kilometers per hour. It had a 1,540 kilometer range, 20mm cannon, and 4 7.5mm machine guns on the wings. Over 1,000 of these were ordered by September 1939. The French liked the plane so much that they expanded the contract to get 2,205 Dewoitine D-520 fighter planes delivered from November 1940 onwards. However, there were some difficulties with production, and by January 1940, only 13 planes had come off the assembly line. Okay, so those French planes I talked about were technology to be used in this war. But if you'd like to see some technology that nearly caused a war that could have led to the end of humanity, you can click right here for our mini-series about the Cuba crisis. That is all for today from Out of the Foxholes. If you have a question of your own, do not just write it in the comments, but submit it on our awesome TimeGhost community forum. The link is in the description. We look forward to reading all of your questions. And please, join us on Patreon to make this ever more exciting and interesting and better, and get me and Joram some more research help and more cameras so we can have so you can look down on my head and stuff like that. So do that. See you next time.